Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
The Ashford family has been through their fair share of heartbreak, turmoil, and second chances, but nothing could have prepared them for what's coming next. In Port Charles, tragedy strikes without warning, and this time, it hits one of the most beloved families right at the core. It all begins on what was supposed to be a normal morning at the Ashford home. Curtis sits in his wheelchair near the window, gazing out at the quiet streets, trying to find peace in the routine of his rehabilitation. Trina, home from college for a short break, is in the kitchen chatting with Portia, who is cooking breakfast. The sound of laughter fills the room, something rare but comforting after months of struggle following Curtis's shooting. But that fragile calm is shattered when Marshall walks in, his face pale, his hands shaking, clutching his phone tightly. Portia immediately senses something's wrong. "Marshall, what is it?" she asks, setting down a plate. His lips quiver before he finally says, It's Tommy." The room falls silent. Curtis's breath catches. "What about my brother?" Marshall looks down, his voice breaking. "He's gone, son. Tommy's dead." The words echo through the air, heavy and unbelievable. Trina covers her mouth, her eyes wide in disbelief. Portia rushes to Marshall, putting a hand on his shoulder, trying to understand. "What happened?" she asks softly. Marshall swallows hard, his eyes filling with tears. "They said it was sudden. They're still determining the cause, but," his voice trails off as he struggles to keep composure. Curtis closes his eyes, the pain in his chest almost unbearable. "I thought we lost him years ago," he whispers, remembering how Tommy's supposed suicide had haunted the Ashford family for decades before recent revelations had suggested otherwise. "But to lose him again? For real this time?" Trina kneels beside her father, taking his hand. "Dad, I'm so sorry," she murmurs. "We'll get through this together." Portia nods through tears. "We will," she agrees, even though her own heart is breaking. Hours later, the family gathers in the living room, each one processing the news in their own way. Marshall sits quietly in a chair, staring into the distance, consumed by guilt. He always believed his son's death years ago had been a direct result of his own choices, leaving the family when his mental health became too much to bear. Curtis, though heartbroken, can't stop replaying the past in his mind. "He tried so hard to start over," Curtis says softly, his voice shaking. "After everything, after coming back into our lives. I thought maybe we could rebuild what was lost." Portia sits beside him, rubbing his arm gently. "You had time, Curtis. You gave him forgiveness. That means something." Curtis shakes his head. "It doesn't feel like enough." "It never does." Later that evening, the calls begin. Stella Henry, the heart of the Ashford clan, arrives in tears, her usual strength crumbling the moment she steps through the door. "Not Tommy," she whispers as she hugs Marshall. "Lord knows we've had our share of sorrow, but this feels different." Marshall nods, his voice cracking. "It's like losing him all over again, Stella." The two cling to each other, both drowning in memories and regret. Portia and Trina watch quietly, their hearts aching for the family that has already been through so much. Within days, arrangements are made for a small memorial service in Port Charles. The church is filled with flowers, soft music playing as friends and family gather to pay their respects. The atmosphere is somber, but beneath it all is a current of confusion and unease. The coroner's report still hasn't come in, and the official cause of death remains unclear. Speculation begins to swirl. Was it natural causes? An accident? Or something darker? The whispers start among guests even before the service begins. Jordan Ashford, Curtis's ex-wife and a police officer, stands quietly in the back, her expression grim. She'd received preliminary information that didn't sit right. When Portia approaches her, she gently asks, "Jordan, do you know something we don't?" Jordan hesitates, her eyes flickering toward Curtis. "Not yet," she admits, "but I have a feeling there's more to this than we're being told." As the service begins, the pastor speaks about redemption and family. Curtis, holding back tears, delivers a heartfelt eulogy. Tommy was a man who lived with demons, but he never stopped trying to conquer them, he says. He loved deeply, fought hard, and, despite everything, he always wanted to come home. I just wish he'd had more time. His voice cracks, and Trina rushes to his side, steadying him. The crowd murmurs softly, many wiping away tears. But the uneasy tension continues to build when Jordan receives a message mid-service. She steps outside, her brow furrowing as she reads the update. Toxicology results indicate something suspicious in Tommy's system, a rare compound not typically found in accidental overdoses. She immediately realizes this may not be as simple as it seems. After the service, as guests mingle quietly and share condolences, Jordan approaches Curtis and Portia. I didn't want to say this today, she begins carefully, but we might need to look into Tommy's death a little deeper. Curtis frowns. What are you saying? Jordan sighs. The lab found something in his blood that shouldn't be there. Until we know more, we can't rule out foul play. Portia gasps softly. Oh, my God. Curtis feels his stomach twist. You think someone did this to my brother? Jordan meets his eyes. I'm saying we can't ignore the possibility. That night, the Ashford home is quiet, but no one can sleep. Curtis sits up late, staring at a framed photo of his family. Portia joins him, wrapping a blanket around his shoulders. You're thinking about who could have done it, she says softly. Curtis nods. If someone hurt Tommy, I need to know why. And who? His voice is low, controlled, but the rage simmers beneath it. Portia reaches for his hand. We'll find out together. Meanwhile, Trina sits in her room, scrolling through old text messages with Tommy. He'd reached out just a few weeks before his death, telling her how proud he was of her, how he wanted to visit soon. Tears stream down her face as she whispers, "Why didn't I call you back?" The next day, Jordan meets with the coroner to discuss the report. We found traces of a synthetic compound that could have caused cardiac arrest, the coroner explains. It's not something you'd find in street drugs, more like something used in research labs. Jordan frowns. So it's not accidental. The coroner hesitates. It doesn't look like it. Jordan leaves with a heavy heart, knowing she'll have to bring this news to the Ashfords. When she returns to Curtis's home, everyone's gathered, Marshall, Stella, Portia, and Trina. She takes a deep breath. The coroner's report is back, she says. Tommy's death wasn't natural. Gasps fill the room. Stella clutches her chest. You mean, someone killed him? Jordan nods solemnly. That's what it looks like. Curtis's expression hardens. Then we find out who. He's no longer the grieving brother, now he's the man on a mission. Tommy didn't deserve this. He fought too hard to make things right. Marshall shakes his head, tears glistening in his eyes. I should have been there. Maybe I could have stopped it. Stella touches his hand. Don't do that, Marshall. This isn't on you. Portia, ever the voice of reason, says quietly, who would want to hurt Tommy? He'd been trying to rebuild his life, staying out of trouble. Jordan looks down. That's what worries me. Maybe someone didn't want him to start over. As the days pass, more information comes to light. Jordan's investigation uncovers that Tommy had been in contact with someone from his past, a mysterious figure connected to a classified government project. It turns out that Tommy, before his death, had been working as a consultant on something sensitive, something that might have made him a target. When Curtis hears this, he's stunned. So he wasn't just living quietly? Jordan shakes her head. No, Curtis. He was involved in something dangerous. He might have known too much. The revelation rocks the Ashford family once more. Portia tries to reassure Trina that the truth will come out, but Trina can't shake the feeling that her uncle's death might put their whole family at risk. One evening, as she's leaving the hospital, she notices someone watching her from across the parking lot, a shadowy figure who disappears when she turns around. Shaken, she tells Curtis, who immediately alerts Jordan. "We're being watched now," Curtis says grimly. Whatever Tommy was into, it didn't die with him. Meanwhile, Marshall sits alone in his room, playing his clarinet softly, tears streaming down his face as he whispers to the empty room, "I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry." Stella joins him quietly, sitting beside him. "We'll get justice for him, Marshall," she says firmly. "This family's been through hell and back. We won't let this break us." Weeks later, the truth finally begins to unfold. Jordan's investigation leads to a shocking connection. Tommy had discovered evidence of corruption tied to a major pharmaceutical company doing illegal testing. He'd planned to go public, but someone silenced him before he could. The revelation sends shockwaves through Port Charles. Curtis can hardly believe it. "He was trying to do the right thing," he says bitterly. "And they killed him for it." In a tense final scene, the Ashford family gathers once more at Tommy's grave, the sun setting over the cemetery. Curtis stands with his hand on his brother's tombstone, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You tried to make things right, Tommy. We'll finish what you started. I promise." Trina hugs her father tightly, tears streaming down her face. "He'd be proud of you," she whispers. Portia joins them, resting a comforting hand on Curtis's shoulder. Marshall and Stella stand nearby, holding hands, silent but united. As they leave the cemetery, the camera lingers on the headstone, the wind rustling through the trees, a haunting reminder that in Port Charles, secrets never stay buried for long. And for the Ashford family, the tragedy that began with a surprise funeral is far from over, because justice, once awakened, won't rest until every truth is uncovered. Part 2 of the Ashford family's heartbreak begins just days after Tommy's funeral. The air in Port Charles feels heavy, filled with unanswered questions and silent fears. Curtis sits in the living room, still haunted by what Jordan told him, that Tommy's death wasn't natural, that someone took him from them. Portia walks in quietly, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You didn't sleep again, did you?" she asks gently. Curtis shakes his head, staring blankly at the cup she hands him. "How can I? My brother's dead, and now I know it wasn't an accident. I keep asking myself why. Why would someone want to hurt him?" Portia sits beside him, her voice calm but firm. "You can't lose yourself in this, Curtis. We'll find answers, but you need to take care of yourself too." Curtis's jaw tightens. "Taking care of myself doesn't matter right now. What matters is finding out who killed my brother." Just then, the doorbell rings. Curtis wheels over and opens the door to find Jordan standing there, a folder in her hand and a troubled look on her face. "We need to talk," she says quietly. Portia steps aside, and the 3 of them sit down. Jordan opens the folder and lays out several documents on the table. The lab finished analyzing Tommy's phone records. He'd been making calls to someone using a secure line, registered to a front company based in D.C. Curtis frowns. "What kind of company?" Jordan hesitates. "A private contractor. Government affiliated, but there's not much public information about them." The calls were frequent, almost daily during the last month of his life. Portia exchanges a worried look with Curtis. "You're saying Tommy was working with someone in the government?" Jordan nods. "It looks that way. But here's the problem, that company has a history of covering up incidents involving classified medical testing. And whatever Tommy was involved in, it was dangerous." Curtis rubs his face, frustration growing. "So he was trying to do something good, expose something wrong, and they silenced him for it." Jordan sighs. "That's one theory. But I don't want to jump to conclusions until we have proof." Curtis leans forward. "Then find it. I don't care what it takes." Portia touches his arm. "Curtis, let Jordan do her job. You can't let anger cloud your judgment." He looks at her, eyes full of pain. "Portia, this isn't just about anger. It's about justice." Meanwhile, at the hospital, Trina meets with Stella, who's there volunteering as usual. Stella can see the pain written all over Trina's face. You've been quiet since the funeral, she says softly. Trina sighs. It just doesn't feel real, Aunt Stella. Uncle Tommy reached out to me not long before he died. He said he wanted to talk, but he had something important to tell me. I thought he just wanted to catch up, so I told him I'd call later. Now I keep wondering if he was trying to warn me about something. Stella's heart aches hearing those words. You can't blame yourself, sweetheart, she says gently. We all wish we could have done more. But what matters now is standing by your father. Trina nods, fighting back tears. I will. He's holding so much in, trying to be strong for everyone. But I can see it's tearing him apart. Later that day, Jordan receives a call from one of her contacts in Washington. The voice on the other end is low, cautious. Detective Ashford, you didn't get this from me, but your victim, Tommy Ashford, had been communicating with a whistleblower inside a pharmaceutical firm tied to a government contractor. He'd been gathering evidence to take to the press. Jordan's pulse quickens. Do you know what kind of evidence? The caller pauses. Something about unethical testing. People being used as subjects without their consent. If that's true, then whoever runs that program wouldn't think twice about silencing anyone who threatens to expose it. Jordan's stomach tightens. Thank you, she says, ending the call. She knows what this means. Tommy was onto something big. At the same time, Marshall sits in his study, listening to old jazz records. The music fills the room, but it can't drown out the guilt inside him. He's lost in thought when Curtis enters quietly. Dad, Curtis says, pulling up beside him. I know you've been blaming yourself. Marshall sighs, lowering the volume. I walked away from my family once, Curtis. I let my mental health control me. And when Tommy needed me most, I wasn't there. Now he's gone, and I'll never get that time back. Just then, the doorbell rings. Curtis wheels over and opens the door to find Jordan standing there, a folder in her hand and a troubled look on her face. We need to talk, she says quietly. Portia steps aside, and the three of them sit down. Jordan opens the folder and lays out several documents on the table. The lab finished analyzing Tommy's phone records. He'd been making calls to someone using a secure line, registered to a front company based in D.C. Curtis frowns. What kind of company? Jordan hesitates. A private contractor. Government affiliated, but there's not much public information about them. The calls were frequent, almost daily during the last month of his life. Portia exchanges a worried look with Curtis. You're saying Tommy was working with someone in the government? Jordan nods. It looks that way. But here's the problem, that company has a history of covering up incidents involving classified medical testing. And whatever Tommy was involved in, it was dangerous. Curtis rubs his face, frustration growing. So he was trying to do something good, expose something wrong, and they silenced him for it. Jordan sighs. That's one theory. But I don't want to jump to conclusions until we have proof. Curtis leans forward. Then find it. I don't care what it takes. Portia touches his arm. Curtis, let Jordan do her job. You can't let anger cloud your judgment. He looks at her, eyes full of pain. Portia, this isn't just about anger. It's about justice. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Trina meets with Stella, who's there volunteering as usual. Stella can see the pain written all over Trina's face. You've been quiet since the funeral, she says softly. Trina sighs. It just doesn't feel real, Aunt Stella. Uncle Tommy reached out to me not long before he died. He said he wanted to talk, but he had something important to tell me. I thought he just wanted to catch up, so I told him I'd call later. Now I keep wondering if he was trying to warn me about something. Stella's heart aches hearing those words. You can't blame yourself, sweetheart, she says gently. We all wish we could have done more. But what matters now is standing by your father. Trina nods, fighting back tears. I will. He's holding so much in, trying to be strong for everyone. But I can see it's tearing him apart. Later that day, Jordan receives a call from one of her contacts in Washington. The voice on the other end is low, cautious. Detective Ashford, you didn't get this from me, but your victim, Tommy Ashford, had been communicating with a whistleblower inside a pharmaceutical firm tied to a government contractor. He'd been gathering evidence to take to the press. Jordan's pulse quickens. Do you know what kind of evidence? The caller pauses. Something about unethical testing. People being used as subjects without their consent. If that's true, then whoever runs that program wouldn't think twice about silencing anyone who threatens to expose it. Jordan's stomach tightens. Thank you, she says, ending the call. She knows what this means. Tommy was onto something big. At the same time, Marshall sits in his study, listening to old jazz records. The music fills the room, but it can't drown out the guilt inside him. He's lost in thought when Curtis enters quietly. Dad, Curtis says, pulling up beside him. I know you've been blaming yourself. Marshall sighs, lowering the volume. I walked away from my family once, Curtis. I let my mental health control me. And when Tommy needed me most, I wasn't there. Now he's gone, and I'll never get that time back. Curtis's eyes soften. You came back, Dad. You made things right with me, with Trina. Tommy knew you loved him. Marshall looks down. Maybe. But love doesn't erase regret. Curtis places a hand on his father's shoulder. Then let's make it mean something. Let's make sure whoever did this to him pays for it. Back at the PCPD, Jordan digs deeper. She finds that Tommy's last known location before his death was a motel near the edge of Port Charles. Surveillance footage shows him meeting with a man wearing a baseball cap and dark jacket. Jordan freezes the frame, zooming in on the man's face. She recognizes him, Dr. Lewis Trent, a researcher who once worked with Portia Robinson during her time at the hospital. What the hell were you doing with Tommy? She mutters to herself. She immediately drives to the hospital to confront Portia. When she finds her, Portia looks surprised. Jordan, what's going on? Jordan shows her the photo. You recognize this man? Portia's eyes widen. That's Dr. Trent. He used to work here. He was fired a few months ago for tampering with research data. Why? Jordan takes a deep breath. He met with Tommy just days before his death. Portia's hand flies to her mouth. Are you saying Trent could be involved? Jordan nods grimly. It's possible. I'm going to track him down. Meanwhile, Trina visits her father at the Savoy, where he's sitting in the dimly lit office, staring at a file Jordan gave him. Dad, she says softly, stepping inside. You shouldn't be doing this alone. Curtis looks up, weary but determined. I need to know the truth, Trina. If I don't, I'll never be able to move on. Trina walks over and places her hand on his shoulder. We'll find it together. Curtis manages a small smile. You're just like your mother, strong, brave, stubborn. Trina chuckles through tears. I'll take that as a compliment. That night, Jordan finally locates Dr. Trent's address. She and Dante Falconeri head out to question him. When they arrive, the lights are off and the front door is slightly open. Stay alert, Jordan warns as they enter. The house is eerily quiet. Papers are scattered across the table, and the faint smell of chemicals fills the air. In the living room, they find Dr. Trent's body slumped over his desk, dead. A syringe lies beside him, and a note is pinned to his shirt, I couldn't run anymore. Jordan looks around, her instincts screaming that this was no suicide. They got to him, she whispers. Whoever killed Tommy made sure Trent couldn't talk. The next morning, Jordan breaks the news to Curtis and Portia. Portia covers her face in disbelief. So now Trent's dead too? Curtis slams his hand against the table. That's not a coincidence. They're cleaning house, getting rid of anyone connected to Tommy. Jordan nods. Exactly. And we need to find out who's pulling the strings before anyone else gets hurt. Trina overhears and steps forward. Then I want to help. I can go through Uncle Tommy's old notes. Maybe he left something behind. Curtis hesitates. I don't want you involved in this, Trina. But she meets his gaze firmly. I'm already involved, Dad. He was my uncle. I loved him. If I can help you find answers, I'm going to. Later, at the Ashford home, Trina sits at the table with a box of Tommy's belongings. Among them are letters, photos, and a flash drive. She plugs it into her laptop and opens a folder labeled Project Safe. Inside are files about medical trials, names, dates, and locations. She frowns as she scrolls through the list and notices a familiar name, Dr. Lewis Trent. Her heart races. Mom, she calls out. Portia rushes in. What is it? Trina turns the screen toward her. Look at this. Dr. Trent's name is here, and so is another, Dr. Warren Laird. He's still working at the hospital. Portia's eyes widen. That means he might know something. Part 3 opens on a gray morning in Port Charles. Rain falls against the windows of the Ashford home, echoing the unease settling over the family. Curtis sits in silence, staring at the file on the table, the one Jordan gave him with Tommy's toxicology report and the new information linking the deadly compound to a local biotech firm. Portia stands at the counter, her mind racing. I still can't believe this, she says, shaking her head. Someone at my hospital, might have been behind this? Curtis looks up, his voice low and strained. They used your workplace to kill my brother, Portia. Whoever did this, they're close, too close. Trina steps in, tension on her face. Dad, Mom, you're both in danger if this thing goes public before Jordan gets proof. Curtis sighs deeply. We can't let fear stop us. Tommy died trying to expose them. We owe it to him to finish what he started. Meanwhile, at the Port Charles Police Department, Jordan sits in her office reviewing security footage from the hospital's supply lab. The timestamp matches the night before Tommy's death. On the footage, a man in scrubs enters the restricted area, swiping a stolen badge. His face is partially visible under a surgical mask, but when Jordan freezes the frame and enhances the image, her stomach drops. It's Dr. Warren Laird. She immediately calls Dante. We've got our suspect, she says grimly. Dante frowns. You think he's the one who supplied the compound that killed Tommy? Jordan nods. Not just supplied, I think he helped create it. And I think he's still covering up what Tommy found out. At the hospital, Portia arrives for her shift but immediately senses something's off. Nurses whisper in the hallways, and Dr. Laird greets her with an unsettling smile. Long night, Dr. Robinson, he says casually. You look tense. Portia forces a polite smile. Just tired, that's all. He chuckles softly. You should get some rest. Stress isn't good for anyone, especially when things are unpredictable. Portia freezes, realizing his tone carries a hidden threat. As he walks away, she exhales shakily, clutching her phone. She quickly texts Curtis, something's wrong. Laird just threatened me. Curtis wastes no time. He calls Jordan. Portia's in danger. Laird knows something. Jordan replies sharply, I'm already on my way to the hospital. Don't do anything reckless, Curtis. But Curtis isn't listening. He wheels toward the door, determination written all over his face. Reckless is what got Tommy killed. I'm not sitting here while it happens again. Trina tries to stop him. Dad, please, let the police handle it. Curtis looks back at her, his eyes full of fire. I can't, Trina. Not this time. At the hospital, Portia hides in an empty office, her hands trembling as she scrolls through Tommy's flash drive files again. Among the research documents, she finds a hidden folder labeled Final Proof. She opens it to reveal photos of test subjects, confidential reports, and a list of doctors involved in illegal trials, including Dr. Laird's name. Her eyes widen in horror. "Oh my God," she whispers. Just then, she hears footsteps. The door creaks open, and Laird steps in, smiling coldly. "You shouldn't have seen that, Dr. Robinson." Portia's pulse races. "You killed Tommy," she says, voice trembling but firm. "He found out what you were doing." Laird sighs. Tommy was a good man, but he didn't understand the importance of discretion. "You, on the other hand, could make this all go away if you just keep quiet." Portia backs away slowly. "I'm not staying quiet. You murdered an innocent man." Laird moves closer, his tone growing darker. "You think anyone's going to believe you? This entire operation has powerful backers. People who can make evidence disappear, or people, just as easily." He reaches into his coat pocket, pulling out a syringe. "Let's not make this harder than it has to be." Before he can move, the door bursts open, Curtis rolls in, fury in his eyes. "Step away from her." Laird freezes, startled. "Curtis, you shouldn't be here." Curtis wheels forward, eyes blazing. "You took my brother's life. Now you're threatening my wife. You think I'm just going to sit back and let that happen?" Laird smirks. "You're in no position to stop me." Suddenly, Jordan appears behind him with her gun drawn. "Yes, he is," she says sharply. "Drop the syringe, Dr. Laird." The room is tense. Laird hesitates, his hand trembling. "You don't understand," he says. "This isn't just me. There are people out there who will come after you if you dig any deeper." Jordan's voice hardens. "Then let them come. You're done." Laird drops the syringe, and Dante rushes in to cuff him. As he's escorted out, he mutters under his breath, "You think it ends with me? You have no idea what you've started." Back at the Ashford home later that evening, the family gathers once more, emotionally exhausted but relieved that Laird has been arrested. Portia sits beside Curtis, still shaken. "He would have killed me," she whispers. Curtis takes her hand. "He didn't. You're safe now. Tommy can finally rest." Trina sits nearby, her eyes glistening with tears. "We did it, Dad. We got justice for him." But Curtis shakes his head slowly. "Not yet. Laird said there are others. That this goes higher." Jordan, who's just arrived from the station, confirms it. "He's not lying. Laird's been cooperating since the arrest. He says a corporation called Novamed funded the trials, the same one Tommy was trying to expose." Marshall enters the room, listening quietly before speaking. "Then we take it public. We make sure the world knows what Tommy died for." Stella nods firmly. "He didn't die in vain, baby. The truth's coming out now." Jordan agrees. "We're coordinating with federal authorities. Once we have the full evidence chain, Novamed won't be able to hide behind their money or power." As the family absorbs the news, Curtis looks up at a photo of Tommy on the mantel, smiling, full of life. "You did it, little brother," he says softly. "Your fight wasn't for nothing." Portia leans her head on his shoulder. "He'd be proud of you, Curtis." The next morning, the story breaks on national news. Reports flood in about Novamed's illegal testing and the whistleblower, Thomas Ashford, who was killed trying to expose it. Journalists gather outside the PCPD, and Port Charles buzzes with the shock of the revelations. At the Savoy, customers approach Curtis, offering condolences and gratitude. "Your brother was a hero," one says. Curtis forces a smile. "He just wanted the truth." Meanwhile, at the station, Jordan receives a confidential message. The email reads, "You think it's over? Watch your back. NM." Her blood runs cold. She immediately calls Dante. "We've still got work to do," she says. Someone's trying to clean up the mess Novamed left behind. That night, at the Ashford home, the family tries to relax for the first time in weeks. Portia cooks dinner, Marshall plays a soft jazz tune on his clarinet, and Trina laughs faintly at one of Stella's old stories. But beneath the laughter, there's a lingering unease. Curtis stares out the window, lost in thought. "You feel that?" he says quietly. Portia looks over. "Feel what?" "That it's not over," he murmurs. "There's still something coming."